When I got sick, my DIL threw out my medication, saying, "You're just faking for attention." My son believed her. I collapsed trying to make dinner. They stepped over me and ate. But they didn't know about the cameras I'd installed, or the lawyer who watched every clip. I never thought it would come to this. Living in my son's house, being treated like I was invisible, or worse, a burden they couldn't wait to dump. I'm not the kind of person who asks for much. I worked for 34 years as a public school secretary in White Plains. Raised my son alone after his father walked out when Michael was 10. I did everything for him. Soccer practice, tutoring, packed lunches, scraped savings for his first car. I didn't date again after his father left. I figured one loyal parent was better than two half-hearted ones. When I was diagnosed with lupus last year, I was already struggling with arthritis. Most days, I could still move around fine, but the flare-ups came out of nowhere, hot, sharp pain that made it hard to even lift a spoon. The steroids helped. The painkillers helped. But I hated taking them. They messed with my stomach. I only took them when I absolutely had to. After I fell in my bathroom and laid there for 6 hours before a neighbor found me, Michael said, "Ma, come stay with us. You can't be alone anymore." I was in no shape to argue. At first, it seemed like a blessing. I moved into the spare room. Dana barely spoke to me, but that was better than fake sweetness. Michael seemed distracted, like he was always somewhere else in his head, but I figured work was getting to him. Then came the medication issue. I opened my bathroom drawer one day and saw my steroid pack was gone. Just gone. I checked everywhere. When I asked Dana, she didn't even blink. I tossed it. "That stuff's not good for you." I stared at her. "It was prescribed," I said. She just shrugged and said, "You're not dying, you're just addicted to the attention." Those words shook me. I went to Michael that night, told him what happened. "She's just worried about you, Ma," he said, eyes glued to his phone. "You've always been kind of dramatic." I went to bed cold. From that moment on, everything shifted. Dana started policing my routines. She checked the fridge and asked why I wasn't eating normal food. She said I was being lazy, faking fatigue. I'd be curled up in pain in my room and she'd knock, demanding I clean the guest bathroom. When I told Michael how she spoke to me, he got irritated. "You're making this hard," he said. "Can't you just try to get along with her?" That's when I realized my son had left me emotionally. Whatever hold Dana had on him, it was complete. I started hiding my pills. First under my mattress, then in an old makeup bag. Dana found them anyway. Tossed them. One day, I saw her empty my bottle into the trash right in front of me. "Call your doctor. Maybe he'll write you another," she said, with that little smirk. I was shaking, but I didn't yell. I didn't scream. I just nodded and went to my room. I'd had a camera installed there the month I moved in, tiny for security. I added another to the kitchen. I started saving the footage. I had a flash drive in my purse, and I emailed clips to Carla every Sunday. Carla is my age, a lawyer, a widow, and one of the few people left who didn't treat me like a ghost. Then came that night. It was a Friday. Dana told me to cook dinner. My joints were swollen, and I could barely hold a knife, but I started the chicken anyway. I was boiling water when my legs just gave out. It wasn't a slow slide, it was like my body shut off. I hit the kitchen tile hard. The pot rattled, the flames still on. I lay there trying to breathe, trying to move. The pain made everything go white for a second. Michael walked in, looked down at me like I was some mess on the floor. "Ma, get up. This is embarrassing." Dana came in, stepped over my leg, turned off the burner and muttered, "Pathetic." Then they sat at the table, ate the half-cooked chicken and rice like nothing happened. I lay there for maybe 30 minutes. Then I crawled back to my room, inch by inch. I locked the door and cried until I couldn't anymore. The next morning, I packed the bare essentials, wallet, ID, meds I still had, the flash drive, and called Carla. "You ready to move forward?" she asked. "I'm done," I said. "Let's go." Carla didn't waste time. That Monday, she filed for a temporary restraining order against Michael and Dana, on the grounds of elder abuse and medical neglect. She submitted the video clips, Dana throwing out my meds, the two of them eating while I lay on the floor, and a dozen others. She also had statements from my rheumatologist and GP about my condition and the importance of my medications. That same day, I moved into Carla's guest room in her 2-bedroom condo in New Rochelle. It wasn't home, but it was safe. She made space in her kitchen for my pillbox, kept her place spotless, and never made me feel like a burden. A week later, Michael showed up at Carla's building. Security called up to say there was a man downstairs demanding to see me. Carla told them no. She said, if he wants to talk, he can do it through the court. That night, I got the first email. It was from Dana. You're destroying our family over your dramatics. Michael's job is in jeopardy because of your lies. You'll regret this. The next morning, the HR department from Michael's accounting firm called me. They said they'd received an anonymous tip about a hostile home environment involving one of their employees. Carla advised me not to speak further and to forward the call to her. She smiled when I did. Good, she said. It's starting to work. Michael had painted himself as the perfect family man. But once the footage got submitted, the mask cracked. His firm opened an internal ethics review, especially after we included Dana's mocking comments about faking it and the video of her laughing while I clutched my swollen joints. But the real breaking point came when Carla filed the formal petition for conservatorship. Not because I was incapable, but because I needed protection from a hostile household where my health was at risk. Michael responded with a counterclaim. He said I was unstable. He submitted old texts, out-of-context messages I'd sent in pain or frustration. But Carla had more. Not just the videos, but timestamps, witness statements from neighbors who'd heard shouting, even one from their cleaning lady who'd seen Dana flush pills down the toilet. Meanwhile, Dana posted on Facebook. Some people pretend to be sick for attention. It's disgusting when they tear families apart. She never used my name, but it was obvious. A few of her friends commented supportively. Others, not so much. One said, you stepped over your MIL while she was on the ground? Seriously? Dana deleted the post within a day. But screenshots live forever. Carla added them to the file. Michael started calling me late at night. Blocked number. Voicemails full of guilt-tripping. Ma, please. Just drop this. We can fix it. I didn't know it was that serious. Dana was just trying to help. He didn't say sorry. He didn't ask if I was okay. He just wanted it to go away. Then came the court-ordered deposition. Dana showed up in a pale blue suit like she was going to brunch. Michael sat beside her, looking tired, ashamed, and small. Carla was calm, surgical. She played the clip of me lying on the floor. Dana stepped over me. Michael ignored me. Dana tried to explain. She does this all the time. It's performative. Carla cut her off. Does she perform swelling? Pain? Medical documentation from 2 board-certified doctors. Dana stared at the table. Michael said nothing. The judge ordered an emergency injunction barring either of them from contacting me directly. But the damage wasn't over. 3 weeks after the injunction, something strange happened. I started receiving mail at Carla's condo. Bills, statements, medical letters, all forwarded from my old address. That wasn't the strange part. What hit me was a notice from a pharmacy in the Bronx I'd never used before. It showed that someone had filled prescriptions in my name, strong opiates I'd never been prescribed. I called the number on the bill. They confirmed the prescriptions were picked up in person. I asked for a copy of the signature. It wasn't mine. I showed Carla. She raised an eyebrow, then picked up her phone and dialed someone she knew in the DA's office. Within days, we learned Dana had used my insurance to fill pills in my name, likely using old prescription pads I'd tossed when I moved in. The signature was forged. The pharmacy's CCTV showed Dana at the counter. She was wearing sunglasses, but the footage was clear enough. We reported it immediately. That shifted the legal case. Now, it wasn't just about elder abuse or medical neglect, it was health insurance fraud and identity theft. The DA began reviewing it for potential felony charges. Dana stopped posting on Facebook. Michael sent one last email, short and cold. You're ruining our lives. You'll die alone, bitter and broke. He still couldn't admit they did anything wrong. Meanwhile, I was contacted by a local news reporter, someone Carla knew from a consumer rights segment she'd worked on years back. The reporter had caught wind of the case from courthouse filings. She asked if I'd speak anonymously for a story on elder abuse. I agreed. My voice, blurred face, and story aired on a Thursday evening. I watched from Carla's couch. The next morning, Carla's phone wouldn't stop ringing. Turns out, Dana had applied for a social work position at a nonprofit that served elderly clients. The organization saw the story. They recognized the footage. They rescinded her offer immediately. Someone from the board called to say, "We don't tolerate that kind of behavior, no matter who you're married to." I didn't laugh. I just sat there and let it all soak in. But the final twist didn't come from the courts, or from Dana. It came from my son's job. Michael was called into a compliance hearing. Apparently, one of the firm's clients was a pharmaceutical group, and after learning of the pending fraud investigation tied to his household, the company issued a formal complaint. Michael was terminated for failing to disclose the legal risk. Carla looked at me that night and said, "Sometimes revenge comes slowly. But it always comes." The court date came that fall. The leaves were turning in New Rochelle, and my hands were swollen from the cold, but I showed up in a pressed gray coat and soft leather gloves. Carla walked beside me, a steady hand at my elbow. The courtroom was quiet. Dana sat stiff in her chair, jaw clenched. Michael looked older, tired, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He wouldn't look at me. Not once. The charges against Dana were clear. Fraudulent use of a controlled substance, insurance fraud, and elder abuse. The video clips were damning. The DA offered her a plea deal, 2 years probation, a felony record, and community service. She took it without fighting. Her license application for social work was revoked permanently. Michael wasn't charged with a crime, but he was named in the civil suit Carla filed on my behalf, an elder exploitation claim seeking damages for medical negligence, pain and suffering, and theft. We sued them both. Every penny they ever took from my retirement checks, every bill they ran in my name, every out-of-pocket medical cost they caused. The judge ruled in our favor. $84,600 in damages, plus legal fees. They didn't have it. Within a month, their leased SUV was repossessed. Their apartment, actually in Dana's name, was lost after she defaulted on a separate loan. Michael tried to borrow from his father, who told him he made his bed. Dana's parents washed their hands of her after the story aired on the local news again, this time naming names after the case closed. They moved in with one of Dana's friends, some cramped 2-bedroom in Queens. Word got around. Nobody wanted to hire someone with elder abuse on their record. Dana tried to get a job at a daycare. Someone forwarded the story to the director. She was dropped before orientation. Michael sent one more email. "You destroyed me. You broke your own son. Hope it was worth it." I didn't reply. Instead, I moved back into a small 1-bedroom senior apartment in Yonkers. Carla helped me furnish it. Nothing fancy, but warm, clean, and mine. What they did to me, ignoring me, mocking me, stealing from me, stepping over me like I didn't matter, it cut deep. But I didn't scream or beg. I collected the truth. I waited. I protected myself. And in the end, they lost everything they tried to take from me. Michael lost his job, his home, his future. Dana lost her reputation, her career, her freedom. I got something better than revenge. I got my dignity back. And I made damn sure they'll never forget what they did to me. Ever. The revenge was complete, but the story didn't truly end there. 2 years passed. I didn't hear from Michael. Not on my birthday, not on Christmas, not even when I had a brief hospital stay last spring. I was recovering from a minor stroke. Carla sat with me the whole night. It was nothing like before. This time, I was surrounded by people who actually cared. Then one Sunday morning, my building's doorman called up. "There's a man downstairs," he said. "Says he's your son." I hesitated. Part of me wanted to tell him to throw Michael out onto the street. but curiosity won. I told them to let him up. He looked smaller somehow, leaner, less sure of himself. Same brown coat he'd worn when I moved in with him years ago. It didn't fit right anymore. "Ma," he said, eyes wet. "I messed up." I didn't speak. I lost everything. Dana's gone. She left for Florida, moved in with her cousin. I can't get a job. I thought maybe you could help me. I stared at him for a long moment. Then I asked, "Help you how?" He looked at the carpet. "Just a little money. Maybe a place to stay. Just for a bit." I leaned back in my chair. "Do you remember what you said in your last email?" I asked. He blinked. "What?" "You said I destroyed you. That I broke my own son. You never once said sorry." I didn't mean it. I was angry. "No." I cut him off. "You meant it. You stepped over your own mother while she was on the ground. You stood by while your wife mocked me, flushed my pills, treated me like garbage. You didn't speak up. You didn't protect me." He said nothing. I stood slowly. My legs were still a little weak from the stroke, but I looked him straight in the eye. I protected myself. "You're not welcome here. Ever again." He opened his mouth, maybe to beg, maybe to argue. I shut the door. And that was the last time I ever saw my son. After I shut the door on Michael, I stood there for a long time, my hand still on the knob. Not crying, just breathing. Slower, deeper. Like I had finally exhaled something I'd been holding in for years. That night, I told Carla what happened. She nodded, poured us both some tea, and said, "He chose his path. You just refused to follow him into it." Months passed. My days got simpler. I joined a community center that offered low-impact exercise classes for seniors with arthritis. I started crocheting again, even with the swelling. Carla and I had a standing lunch date every Thursday. Sometimes we sat in silence. Other times, we'd laugh until my sides hurt. She had this dry wit that always hit right when I needed it. One day, I got a letter forwarded through my lawyer. It was from Dana. She was in Florida, as Michael had said. The letter was handwritten messy. I didn't know it would go that far. I was angry. "You lived in our house, you needed help, and I felt stuck. I took it out on you. I don't expect forgiveness, but I want you to know I do regret it. Ido." I folded it once, neatly, and put it in the trash. Some things don't need a reply. Later that year, I testified at a state hearing on elder abuse and neglect. My story was one of 3 that led to a new state program offering support to seniors in caregiver situations. I didn't do it for applause. I did it because I remembered how alone I felt. I didn't want anyone else to feel that. Then came the letter from Michael. He mailed it to Carla's office, not my apartment. It was longer than Dana's. Full of memories, his childhood, me packing lunches, taking him to the ER when he broke his arm in 6th grade, the way I never once complained when he forgot my birthday during college. I thought I was doing the right thing, siding with my wife. I thought being a husband meant loyalty above all else. But loyalty to cruelty is cowardice. I see that now. I miss you. I miss having a mother. Even if you can't forgive me, I just wanted you to know. I think about that night on the floor every single day. That letter I kept. I didn't frame it. I didn't reply. I just kept it. Because even though I didn't want him back in my life, a part of me, the part that raised him, that fed him, that loved him before he changed, needed to know he'd felt it. The weight, the guilt, the consequences. It didn't make me feel better, but it made the silence easier. Now I live my days on my own terms. I lock my door. I take my medicine on time. I laugh when I want, cry when I need to, and rest without apology. I have a cat now, a rescue named June. She curls up beside me like she's known pain too. We're both survivors in our own way. My son lost his job, his wife, and his mother. And not because I took those things away, but because he let them go. And I got my peace. That was the revenge. And that was enough.